Welcome back to Enlightened Trading. My name is Conrad, and as you might see, today I'll give a presentation on the line of least resistance. Might sound like a complex concept. It isn't at all, actually, and you most likely are very familiar with it, although you don't know it yet. So to start things off, my content will be the derivation, the meaning, chart patterns, and examples for these patterns. So, starting with the derivation, the path of least resistance, as is the usual term in the English language, is basically the easiest way. The easiest way to get over a problem, to find a solution. For example, the easiest way to be healthy is eating healthy foods. So that would be the path of least resistance, also because there isn't anyone standing in your way when it's about eating healthy. And that's basically where the line of least resistance comes from. Also, Edwin Levere mentioned this in his book, and I'll get to this on the next chart of Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. And basically, what he did, he had no charting tools. That was back in early and late 1900, or in the 1900th century, so from 18 to 19, and it's based on simple observation. So what he did is he had price. That's basically the only information he was privy to, and by viewing price and how often a certain price level was hit, he knew at which level the line of least resistance was. And that and down here you have the link to an article where this is a bit closer discussed. Yeah. So following that, we have the meaning, and this is a quote of Jesse Livermore in this book, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which I highly recommend for you to read. But basically he says, when a stock breaks through the line of least resistance, the chances are the greatest that it will move higher in a short period of time. This is the case because this point represents an area where supply is low. Therefore, even a small amount of demand can move the stock higher. The line of least resistance is solely based on price movement and is observed that way. Basically, it says the more distinctive a certain level, the less resistance there will be for price to bounce off of it, and most likely it will break through. And also it says the more tested a certain level is by the price, the more obvious it is for humans, for people, for traders, for traders to know the devil, and to know the level, not the devil, and have stop buys, stop losses around this area. So, as mentioned, only a low, or there will be low supply, so only small demand can move the price through that level. The most or the best line of least resistance is a line, like it's based in the premise itself, and not a diagonal or an area. So the smaller the level, the more distinctive it is, obviously. Also, you want the line to be horizontal rather than diagonal, and I can show you why. It's very simple. basically a horizontal level on a chart is one price or a level between two prices, and diagonal can include a multitude level of price. Yeah, that's basically it. Maybe it sounds complex, and I'll show you that is actually not really. So chart patterns, there can be many chart patterns which have the line of least resistance included in them. Usually the line of least resistance is where price tends to break out the most, or in which direction it tends to break out the most. So for example, I have, let's say, the ascending triangle, the descending triangle, symmetrical triangle, rising and falling wedges, channels, and blue sky breakouts. And blue sky breakouts are when price reaches all-time highs where price has never been before. So basically, there can't really be levels defined by the chart by past price movement, and only psychological factors come into play, like $100, $50, $20, $1,000, basically levels that are like a threshold to human thinking. Yeah, and so moving on, we have some examples, and I'll show you the rest of them on the next slide. This is what I like the most, actually, is the descending triangle and the ascending triangle. And that is because in both cases we have a horizontal line, and that is the line of least resistance. So I'll just use my mouse, my cursor. So as mentioned, you want to have a horizontal line. You want the price to test it most of the time, so that is very distinct, and only very slow demand can move the price through that threshold. So where you have to in the descending triangle, well, on a support level, on the horizontal support line. It's horizontal. It's tested multiple times. Price wedges more when it gets through this pattern, and basically, let's say price is wedging right here, and it actually breaks the lower highs. So that has to be respected, of course, in your analysis. Breaking lower highs can be important. Yet, let's say price breaks out here, makes a higher high, and although the previous high was broken, we still have a level of resistance incoming. That's basically this high. So although there is resistance broken by reaching above this past high, this lower high, there is still a level of resistance compared to down here. Let's say a price moves and actually breaks out here like it did. There is only one level. There is this horizontal price level and not multiple levels of resistance. So that means it's more distinctive, it's more obvious, and people will have their stop losses, their short positions, enter or exit down here. Because, as I said, more obvious, horizontal, and so on. And that's playing out too in the ascending triangle, just in the reverse position. So you have higher lows instead of lower highs, and you have a horizontal line of resistance on the top. This is support, this is resistance. So you have an upper support line and a horizontal resistance line. So let's say price moves right here and wedges. Okay, so let's say the less likely scenario happens and price breaks the higher lows. So basically price moves right here, breaks this low, and falls back down to here. So what is now? Okay, we have broken one level of support for the price to hold, and that was this lower high, this higher low. So now we will look for the next point of support, and that will be that low. So there's 1 and 2 and actually 3 on this certain level. There are 3 other support areas for price to still hold. So that is definitely not the line of least resistance, and actually it's on the top because, well, you can see, and you can move this line actually a bit above because I include wicks, but whatever. Yeah, you have a horizontal line. It's flat. It's obvious. Price has tested it multiple times. Let's say price wedges and breaks that level. Well, where do we go? We have no, based on this chart, of course, you have to include past price movement. But maybe if this was a blue sky breakout to reach all-time highs, and actually we have a similar pattern playing out in the S&P and the Nasdaq right now, which happened. So let's say price moves but breaks that level. Well, there is no resistance area based on this chart or based on this price pattern to have price bounce off. So that is definitely the line of least resistance right here. Okay, so that's rather clear. And yeah, so, and that is also the reason why I love descending and ascending triangles. And I think wedges and rising channels and descending channels are not as helpful. They are helpful, yet their chance of directional breakout isn't as distinctive and as high. So you have horizontal line and the non-horizontal line, and no very clear level. Let's say price breaks out, breaks above this lower high, then we still have this lower high and this lower high to come. So and yeah, this is also a bull flag, basically just like that, a bullish pennant. So there isn't a very clear horizontal line of least resistance, and basically it might just be that level of this the highest level of this price. Also, usually, and that is more price observation, price movement. That's not only the line of least resistance. You can see how price tries to get lower, and it just can't. It just bounces off and off again. Although new lows are reached, and that it has a bullish connotation to it, but that we can explain in another video. But this is solely on the line of least resistance. So you usually don't want to have diagonal patterns, because previous lows and highs still act as resistance compared to maybe a bullish rectangle or a bearish rectangle. You have a horizontal line, which is very obvious. It's very distinctive. It's tested multiple times, and so when price moves beyond it, only a small demand can move it beyond, and it's very obvious, and people can set their stops and entries on these levels. Yeah, okay, so that's it actually, and I'll just show you on Bitcoin some examples how this played out and how I observed that. And here we go. So this is solely price action, nothing too complex. And yeah, so this is the daily chart. And as mentioned, I love descending and ascending triangles, and if you know the chart of Bitcoin, then you are very, very familiar with it. So in this pattern, which basically was a descending triangle, we had a rather clear area or actually line of support. And that was around $6,000, 6K, like high 5 to a low 6K. And once we broke that level, it was very distinctive. A low demand moved it, and we fell rapidly. So that is an example of a descending triangle with the line of least resistance being on the bottom, as you can see. So, going further, where is here the line of least resistance? Let's say price. We have like a support line. I just draw this. I just draw this very roughly to prove a point. Let's say we have higher lows coming, and price here falls below this low, or below this low even. So there is still this or this low to support the price, and it's not the line of least resistance. And actually, if you take this like that, it's tested multiple times by the price. Once price moves beyond it, it's very clear there is much resistance incoming based on this pattern, at least. Of course, because of this huge pattern there is, but based solely on this and this price pattern, there is much support or resistance beyond the line, beyond the horizontal line. And two, I actually viewed this more of a symmetrical triangle, although it was a bit flatter on the downside, and people viewed this as also as a descending triangle. And we also had a very clear level. I'll just remove this. We also had a very clear level. It wasn't as clear and as horizontal as you would have liked it to be. Yet once price moved beyond it, it was very distinctive, very clear, and it broke rapidly. So let's say price breaks this lower high or this lower high, we still have that and that area of resistance incoming, so that isn't the line of least resistance. And also, just to check out recent price action, you can maybe draw this like that, or maybe like that. That isn't too nice, but I just do it for the sake of this video. And yeah, so flat, rather flat area of support or support line, and a rather steep upper resistance line. So let's say price breaks now beyond that recent lower high. There is still right here on 9.5 to around 9.5k to $10,000, 99k, and still on the high of 10,300. So there's very much area of resistance for the price that it has to break compared to basically 8,960 and 8,900. And you can actually also, if you would like to draw this a bit more horizontal, then this would be a bear flag, and we would retest that level of higher 8.9k to retest, and then bounce off, maybe find another lower high, and then break that level maybe. So that would be a horizontal line, and of course the line of least resistance based solely on this pattern. And yes, we do have a support incoming around 8.5k. So that is of course to be included in your analysis, but based solely on this pattern, the line of least resistance is definitely on the bottom. That is of course why I have short positions. Yeah. So I think that's the most clear and easy, the most easiest way I can present this to you. One viewer asked for this, and I'm very happy. Someone actually reached out and asked for that. Here it is. I think it's not too complex, and once you got it, it just, at least in my case, it clicked, and I viewed price movements, price charts very differently. than before. Yeah, I hope you get something out of it. I think all I did is, yeah, as mentioned, quite easy. Yeah, that's it basically. I hope I get around to making another video on price movement and what I think is the best indicator of what direction price will be, and that is the price itself. Price is king for my analysis. I do include some indicators and of course chart patterns, but price movement is most important for me. Yeah, and I get around making maybe a video on that, although it is a bit more complex and yeah, has more aspects to it. Yeah, so I hope you get something out of it and have a nice start into your week into your next week, and have a good rest of your day. Yeah, see you guys, girls, and you people back next time. Bye.